This is America in the Morning from Westwood One. Good morning, I'm John Trout. It's Friday, September 6th, 2024. Here's what's coming up on America in the Morning.
Hunter Biden changed his plea to guilty to federal tax violations. I'm Jackie Quinn.
Authorities in Georgia criminally charging the father of an accused high school shooter.
Colin is Colt Gray's father.
I'm Clayton Neville.
The FBI searched the homes of two top aides to New York City Mayor Eric Adams. I'm Sue Aller.
A Tennessee-based company allegedly duped into making pro-Russia social media propaganda. We'll explain.
The August jobs report will be out this morning. Investors are checking to see how strong the labor market is and what kind of rate cut might be coming. I'm Jessica Ettinger.
Former President Donald Trump promised the Economic Club of New York he would lead what he called a national economic renaissance. I'm Norman Hall.
Teen vaping in the United States has dropped to its lowest level in a decade. I'm Maya Panjwani.
All ahead on America in the Morning. Hunter Biden changes his plea to guilty in his tax evasion case. Correspondent Jackie Quinn reports that while Biden will avoid a trial, his attorney, Abbe Lowell, speaking outside the court, said the president's son could face up to 17 years in prison.
At the start of his federal trial in Los Angeles, with a jury being assembled, Hunter Biden changed his plea to guilty to federal tax violations.
Like millions of Americans, Hunter was late in filing and paying his taxes. Unlike those millions of Americans, he was charged criminally for his failures that occurred during the depths of his addiction to drugs and alcohol.
After the prosecution objected to the younger Biden trying to simply concede there was enough evidence against him under an Alford plea, U.S. District Judge Mark Scarsi had him say yes, he committed every element of every alleged crime.
He will now move on with us to the sentencing phase, while keeping open the options to raise the many clear issues with this case on appeal.
And warned Biden he could face up to 17 years in prison when sentenced in December.
Hunter decided to enter his plea to protect those he loves from unnecessary hurt and cruel humiliation. This plea prevents that kind of show trial that would have not provided all the facts or served any real point in justice.
Prosecutors allege Biden schemed to avoid paying more than $1 million in taxes while spending money on drugs, strippers, and pornography. White House Press Secretary Karine Jean-Pierre was again asked if President Biden might offer a pardon.
I'm not able to comment at this time. On your second question, which was, I guess, part of one question, it's no. It's still no.
Hunter Biden was also recently convicted for lying on a weapons application. I'm Jackie Quinn.
A second person is facing charges in this week's school shooting at Apalachee High School outside Atlanta that left 4 people dead. Correspondent Clayton Neville has the latest on the investigation that now includes the shooter's father.
The Georgia Bureau of Investigation announced new charges more than 24 hours after 14-year-old Colt Gray is said to have gunned down 2 students and 2 teachers and injured 9 others at Apalachee High School.
The GBI has arrested Colin Gray, age 54, in connection to the shooting here at Apalachee High School. Colin is Colt Gray's father.
GBI Director Chris Hosey detailed the charges against the teenager's dad.
4 counts of involuntary manslaughter, 2 counts of second-degree murder, and 8 counts of cruelty to children. Mr. Gray, these charges stem from Mr. Gray knowingly allowing his son, Colt, to possess a weapon.
The director wouldn't say if the father gave the gun directly to his son. There are reports, though, that the weapon was given to the teen as a Christmas gift. Gray and his family had been in contact with police before this week's shooting as part of an investigation into online threats about a school shoot-up. Meanwhile, the Apalachee shooting is leading to threats across Georgia, that according to Director Hosey.
In each of these incidents, police, law enforcement took charges, they made arrests, acted very swiftly, as we take incidents like this very seriously across this state.
A community very much healing as it mourns the loss of 2 beloved 14-year-old students, a 53-year-old math teacher, and a teacher and coach who would have been 40 on his next birthday. Barrow County Sheriff Judd Smith.
The 9 injured, I am very happy to say, will make a full recovery. And that's a testament to the response that we had, in my opinion, the response that medical staff responded with, in my opinion, and we're very happy to say that they will make a full recovery.
I'm Clayton Neville.
The top stories of the day are sponsored by Sleep Number. It's Sleep Number's biggest sale of the year. Save 50% on the Sleep Number limited edition smart bed only at a Sleep Number store or sleepnumber.com. The feds raid 2 New York politicians' homes. When America in the Morning returns after these messages. This is America in the Morning. Areas in the nation that have been dry this week are about to see a change. Here's AccuWeather.com meteorologist LaTroy Thornton.
As a cold front pushes into the interior northeast later today, showers will trace its path into areas from western New York to lower Michigan and point south and west from there to Indiana, Missouri, and perhaps even far eastern Oklahoma. Storms in eastern Ohio may be able to turn especially gusty for a time this afternoon. As the storm presses onward through the Northeast and New England for Saturday, showers will follow from the Appalachians through the Mid-Atlantic, with some areas of steadier rain possible farther to the north into New York State and western New England. There may even be a rumble of thunder from around the nation's capital into portions of New Jersey on Saturday. A piece of energy hanging back from the storm also means showers for parts of the upper Midwest today. In the south, a tropical rainstorm continues to deliver torrential downpours as it spirals over the western Gulf of Mexico. Showers and some heavy thunderstorms should be most numerous today for the central and eastern Gulf Coast, especially from the Texas-Louisiana border, across the Florida Panhandle, and inland through mainly southern parts of Alabama and Georgia. Going back to Wednesday night, many places near the coast from Louisiana to northern Florida can end up with a total of 4 to 8 inches of rain through Saturday night. Outside of those areas, most zones west of the plains are in for a dry day under high pressure. A heat wave continues in the west, with another day of high temperatures potentially challenging daily records away from the coast from Washington to California, southern Idaho, and western Arizona. East of there in the interior west, even the monsoon thunderstorms will be largely absent, with drier air from the southwest through Montana. In Boise, Idaho, expect sunshine and a hot Friday with a high of 97. For New Orleans, slow-moving showers and storms may produce some flash flooding, the high just 78. That's the nation's weather. I'm AccuWeather.com meteorologist LaTroy Thornton.
I'm John Trout. Remember to follow us wherever you get your podcasts. Apple, Spotify, Amazon, and YouTube. Just search America in the Morning in your favorite listening app. Federal agents raided the homes of 2 of New York City's deputy mayors and also confiscated the cell phone of the NYPD Police Commissioner. Sue Aller reports from New York on what's become a growing investigation at the Big Apple's highest levels.
Mayor Adams spoke to Channel 7 Eyewitness News.
I'm not aware of any wrongdoing or misgivings from anyone on my team, and we're going to continue to cooperate.
First Deputy Mayor Sheena Wright and Deputy Mayor for Public Safety Philip Banks had their homes raided on Wednesday. Wright shares a home with schools chancellor David Banks, who is Philip Banks' brother. Details about the specific focus of the investigation have not been fully disclosed. The FBI also seized the phones of several high-ranking law officers, including NYPD Commissioner Edward Caban. Political consultant Hank Shankoff told Channel 7 Eyewitness News that the implications of this investigation could be significant to the mayor and the city of New York.
Either this is the greatest corruption scandal since the third Koch administration, which is the most corrupt administration since Jimmy Walker, or it's nothing. That's what we're going to be seeing over the next few months.
Agents also searched the home of Timothy Pearson, who now advises the mayor on public safety. Authorities say this raid has nothing to do with the ongoing investigation into his 2021 campaign on whether or not he received illegal gifts from Turkey. In New York, I'm Sue Aller.
A group of conservative online personalities tied to a Tennessee-based media company say they're victims after the Department of Justice accused Russia of funding the company to push propaganda. The DOJ indictment alleges Russian state media staffers tied to state media outlet Russia Today shelled out nearly $10 million to content creator Tenet Media, published nearly 2,000 videos made by conservative influencers to social media platforms such as X and YouTube, and failed to inform viewers it was financed by the Kremlin. The company in question released a statement saying they were victims of what they called an alleged scheme. As a result of the investigation, Google-owned YouTube has taken down at least 5 video channels run by Tenet Media. In sports, a Week 1 victory in the NFL for the Kansas City Chiefs. The defending champs beat the Baltimore Ravens 27-20. When we return on America in the Morning, critical August employment report due today after these messages. This is America in the Morning. The Business Report is brought to you by Fisher Investments. Fisher Investments takes a disciplined approach with investing, helping clients navigate volatile markets. Learn more at FisherInvestments.com. Now, CNBC's Jessica Ettinger with today's report.
Wall Street opens this morning after a volatile day for stocks yesterday on fears the economy might be slowing too much. The Dow fell 200 points.
The market is obviously showing its unease with where we sit right now. It's almost like the market doesn't want to hear people sort of say, well, maybe things are okay, in the absence of a number like the monthly payrolls that actually says things are okay.
CNBC's Mike Santoli. Investors could get that number with this morning's August employment report out at 8:30 Eastern. Meantime, in the ADP report, that's private sector hiring. That doesn't include government hiring like school teachers or police officers. Companies added 99,000 jobs in August, and that was fewer than expected.
It tells me that after 2 years of outsized hiring and growth, we're finally seeing a normalization. And so taken together with other data, it's pointing to a softer labor market. We're not falling off a cliff. These are not job losses, but slower hiring, stable wage growth.
ADP economist Neela Richardson on CNBC. Fewer people than expected, meantime, applied for unemployment benefits last week as job cuts remain relatively low. Teen vaping has hit a 10-year low in the U.S. Some teens and adults have switched to nicotine pouches placed in the mouth. Like Zyn products owned by Marlboro cigarette maker Philip Morris, nicotine addiction can start while using Zyn and other rival brand pouches, which are sold in a variety of flavors, including coffee, mint, and citrus.
Top NFL teams when it comes to their street value, and you've got the list.
You know, it's not the Chiefs, it's the Dallas Cowboys. They're at the top of the new CNBC NFL valuations ranking. The Cowboys are worth $11 billion, and here's why.
Jerry Jones is the greatest marketer there is in the history of sports. The Cowboys, through stadium sponsorships, through licensing agreements, get $800 million from stadium revenue. Wow. The league average is less than $300 million.
CNBC's Mike Ozanian. At the bottom of that 32-team list in the NFL is the Cincinnati Bengals, but they're still worth a pretty penny at more than $5 billion. You can see the whole list and methodology at CNBC.com. On today's watch list, it is a Jobs Friday with that August employment report coming out. The NFL has a regular season game for the first time tonight in Brazil. It's Eagles and Packers, and it's only on Peacock, which is a CNBC sister company. And new in theaters this weekend, Plan B's and Warner Brothers' Beetlejuice, plus A24's horror film, The Front Room.
All right, CNBC's Jessica Ettinger. When we return, Donald Trump's business plan and a new report on teen vaping. America in the Morning, back after these messages. This is America in the Morning. Donald Trump has shared with business leaders the economic plan he would enact if elected. With a closer look, here's correspondent Norman Hall.
I will create a government efficiency commission tasked with conducting a complete financial and performance audit of the entire federal government and making recommendations for drastic reforms. We need to do it.
Former President Donald Trump promised the Economic Club of New York he would lead what he called a national economic renaissance by increasing tariffs, slashing regulations to boost energy production, cutting government spending, and lowering corporate taxes for companies that produce in the U.S.
The fifth pillar of my plan is to make the Trump tax cuts permanent. They are massive tax cuts, biggest ever, permanent, and to cut taxes even more.
Democrat Kamala Harris's campaign issued a memo accusing Trump of wanting to hurt the middle class, arguing his ideas would expand the national debt and shrink economic growth and job creation. I'm Norman Hall.
There's a new report out on teenage vaping. With some highlights of the result of that study, here's correspondent Haya Panjwani.
Teen vaping in the United States has dropped to its lowest level in a decade. That's according to new survey data. U.S. health officials say the drop in the number of teens using e-cigarettes has pushed the underage vaping rate to below 6%. Officials attributed the decline to fewer high school students using Elf Bar and other vapes that come in fruit and candy flavors. The drop in vaping didn't coincide with a rise in use of other products, such as nicotine pouches. Sales of small flavored pouches like Zyn have surged among adults, but the survey shows their use remains rare among teens. I'm Haya Panjwani.
America in the Morning for Friday, September 6th, 2024 is produced by Jeff McKay, senior producer Kevin Delaney. I'm John Trout. This is Westwood One. This is America in the Morning from Westwood One. I'm John Trout. Coming up this half hour.
The 14-year-old who opened fire at a high school in Georgia Wednesday had been interviewed by the Jackson County Sheriff's Department over a year ago. I'm Jennifer King.
Donald Trump declares Israel is gone if Jewish Americans don't vote for him this November. I'm John Stolness.
Steelworkers pushing back as political opponents agree. I'm Clayton Neville.
President Biden announcing a multi-billion-dollar clean energy and electrification program. I'm Bob Brown.
The new Voldemort variant spyware did not come from the IRS. I'm tech correspondent Chuck Palm.
The government is ordering big airlines to explain their frequent flyer programs. Ed Donahue, Washington.
Back after these messages. This is America in the Morning. There's rain in store for beachgoers in the south. Here's AccuWeather.com meteorologist LaTroy Thornton with the nation's forecast.
As a tropical rainstorm meanders over the western Gulf of Mexico today, showers and thunderstorms are expected to bring heavy rain to areas generally focused near the Gulf Coast. For today, the greatest risk for impactful precipitation shifts ever so slightly to the east, with most of southeast Texas perhaps getting out of the worst of the rain, while places such as northern Florida get into more of the tropically enhanced downpours. The rainstorm will eventually drift farther southward in the Gulf, taking most of the downpours with it offshore by Saturday. However, some decent rain can still continue for parts of southern Louisiana, where storm total rainfall of 8 to 12 inches is expected ending Saturday night, with a more general 4 to 8 inches of rain near and along the central and eastern Gulf Coast. Farther to the north, the other main story is a disturbance tracking steadily toward the east coast. Today, this will bring showers from the upper Midwest to the Ohio Valley, and there can be some thunderstorms as well from eastern Ohio to southern Illinois and Missouri, as well as much of Arkansas. Behind that storm, noticeably cool air floods into the northern plains, with generally dry conditions extending from there to the Intermountain West through the Four Corners region as a heat wave continues in the west, with sunshine and blazing warmth expected from southern Arizona to interior sections of California, Washington, and Oregon, and also reaching western Nevada. One more dry day can be expected for many from the mid-Atlantic to New England. The humidity can become a bit more noticeable for many today ahead of the Great Lakes storm, but outside of some showers possible around the Outer Banks of North Carolina, most locations from Maine to Tennessee look to be dry today. That's the weather across America. I'm AccuWeather.com meteorologist LaTroy Thornton.
I'm John Trout. Remember to follow us wherever you get your podcasts. Apple, Spotify, Amazon, YouTube. Just search America in the Morning in your favorite listening app. The Georgia Bureau of Investigation has arrested the father of the Apalachee High School teenage suspect in connection with the shooting that left 2 students and 2 teachers dead. Police say 54-year-old Colin Gray has been charged with 4 counts of involuntary manslaughter, 2 counts of second-degree murder, and 8 counts of cruelty to children. His son, Colt Gray, a 14-year-old student, is accused of killing 2 students and 2 teachers with an AR-style rifle in the Wednesday shooting. Correspondent Jennifer King has reaction from students and reports the teen arrested for the school shooting had a previous brush with the law.
Then it went quiet, more shots went off, and then I think maybe 20 minutes after that, police came in to clear out the room, and, everybody put their hands up.
And you just hear gunshots. There's about 10 to 15 of them at once back to back.
Still kind of in like a state of shock. Like you hear about this kind of stuff, but you never think it's gonna happen to you until it's happening. And then once you're in that, it's this is really happening.
Authorities say the 14-year-old who opened fire at a high school in Georgia Wednesday had been interviewed along with his father by the Jackson County Sheriff's Department over a year ago after the FBI received tips about threats posted to an online gaming site threatening a school shooting. They say at the time, investigators didn't have enough evidence for an arrest.
This hits home for me. I was born and raised here. I went to school in this school system. My kids go to this school system. I'm proud of this school system.
Barrow County Sheriff Judd Smith.
My heart hurts for these kids. My heart hurts for our community. But I want to make it very clear that hate will not prevail in this county.
A classmate says the teen left his second period algebra class and came back armed with an assault-style rifle. When classmates refused to open the door, he turned the gun on people in the hallway.
I was walking out to get water, and I heard gunshots, and I heard bullets going by my head.
Landon Culver is a junior at Apalachee High School.
So I ran back in class, and I yelled hey, there's a shooter.
The teen has been charged as an adult in the deaths of 2 14-year-old students and 2 instructors. At least 9 other people were hospitalized with gunshot injuries. State law enforcement says there's no evidence of additional suspects. I'm Jennifer King.
Former President Donald Trump was busy speaking to Jewish Republicans and the Economic Club in New York as Vice President Kamala Harris begins debate prep. John Stolnis has the latest on the campaigns.
In a speech via satellite to the Republican Jewish coalition yesterday, Trump said if Vice President Kamala Harris wins the election, quote, Israel is gone.
We're going to tell Comrade Kamala Harris, you're fired. But we have no choice in doing so. You'll never survive if they get in.
Trump also took questions from the Economic Club of New York, touting his plan to tax companies that try to move jobs overseas.
To stop this onslaught at lower prices, I'm pledging today that in my second term, we will eliminate a minimum of 10 old regulations for every 1 new regulation. And instead of attacking industries of the future, we will embrace them, including making America the world capital for crypto and Bitcoin.
The former president also talked about a job he has in mind for Elon Musk, the owner of the X social media platform, and Tesla.
I will create a government efficiency commission tasked with conducting a complete financial and performance audit. And Elon, because he's not very busy, has agreed to head that task force. Be interesting if he has the time.
The Harris campaign pointing to issues Trump had answering specific policy questions by those in attendance, specifically here on legislation aimed at making childcare more affordable.
We had Senator Marco Rubio, and my daughter Ivanka was so impactful on that issue. It's a very important issue. But I think when you talk about the kind of numbers that I'm talking about, that because look, childcare is childcare. There's something, you have to have it.
Harris, meanwhile, is hunkered down in Pittsburgh, preparing for next Tuesday night's debate in Philadelphia. Her running mate, Governor Tim Walz, also in the Keystone State yesterday, talking gun control in Erie following the school shooting in Georgia on Wednesday.
I say this to all of you. I know guns. I'm a veteran. I'm a hunter. But we can't let them make this just about the Second Amendment. I defend the Second Amendment. But our first responsibility is to keep our kids safe.
Trump running mate Senator J.D. Vance in Phoenix, focusing instead on increasing security at schools to prevent shootings on campus.
We've got to bolster security so that if a psycho wants to walk through the front door and kill a bunch of children, they're not able to. And again, as a parent, do I want my kid's school to have additional security? No, of course I don't. But that is increasingly the reality that we live in.
I'm John Stolnis.
Workers at a steel manufacturer in Pittsburgh are rallying around a merger to a Japanese company that's getting pushback from both presidential candidates and President Biden. Correspondent Clayton Neville has more on that story.
Workers at Nippon Steel rallying amid concerns by the Biden administration surrounding the company's pending acquisition of U.S. Steel for nearly $15 billion.
Let's close this deal.
There are concerns that the deal could damage American steel production, and there are recent reports emerging about President Biden potentially blocking the deal on national security grounds. He's apparently waiting for an investigation to officially wrap up by the Committee on Foreign Investment in the U.S. These steelworkers spoke with WTA-TV in Pittsburgh and were asked to use one word to describe the impact the deal would bring.
Opportunities. Security.
Complicated.
And if it's blocked.
Devastation. Decimation.
Complicated.
Vice President Harris this week joined President Biden and her opponent in the race for the White House, former President Donald Trump, in opposition to the merger. She said that U.S. Steel is a historic American company and that it's vital for our country to keep strong American steel companies. Trump has said he'd block the deal if elected, and while the candidates argue that the merger could weaken the American steel industry, some steel workers call that message politics in a battleground state and insist the deal would make the industry stronger. I'm Clayton Neville.
Among the stories we're covering next, Biden's clean energy bill, Trump lawyers and a judge roll up their sleeves, the latest spyware making the rounds, and NFL recap. All ahead. We're back after these messages. I'm John Trout. Welcome back. You're with America in the Morning. President Biden traveled to Wisconsin where he held a rally saying a multi-billion-dollar clean energy bill will help rural families in the Badger State and across the U.S. Correspondent Bob Brown with more on that story.
In his first visit to Wisconsin since he announced he wasn't running for re-election, President Biden yesterday holding an outdoor rally near La Crosse in the western part of the state, telling rural families they'll be the beneficiaries of a $7.3 billion plan to invest in electrification and clean energy infrastructure in rural areas across the country.
It means clean, affordable electricity for over 5 million rural households and businesses across 23 states.
The president says this means jobs.
It means 20,000 jobs, good paying, high quality jobs, including union jobs. So rural America is empowered to lead our clean energy future.
Biden says this will help families who are struggling to make ends meet.
So rural families can save on their energy bills and get just a little more breathing room at the end of the month.
Officials say the money will be used to buy energy from 4 newly built solar and 4 newly built wind projects. However, the plan does not call for the purchase of nuclear energy. The announcement of the clean energy program is seen as an attempt to attract rural voters in the November election. U.S. Agricultural Secretary Tom Vilsack says farmers are being rewarded for their climate-smart practices and in turn receiving higher returns for their work. The energy investments will largely benefit rural areas of Wisconsin, something he says will help farmers and producers. I'm Bob Brown.
A Department of Justice investigation into election influence in the United States has taken a new turn as a former Donald Trump 2016 campaign advisor, along with his wife, have been criminally charged over work they performed for a sanctioned Russian television network. Correspondent Norman Hall reports.
The Justice Department has charged Russian-born U.S. citizen and former advisor to Donald Trump's 2016 presidential campaign, Dmitry Simes, with working for a sanctioned Russian state television network and laundering the proceeds. Indictments allege that Simes and his wife Anastasia received over $1 million and a personal car and driver in exchange for work they did for Russia's Channel 1 since June 2022. Simes and his wife have a home in Virginia and are believed to be in Russia. The indictments come at a time of renewed concern about Russian efforts to meddle with the upcoming U.S. election using online disinformation and propaganda. I'm Norman Hall.
Lawyers for Donald Trump and the judge in the former president's federal election case clashed in the first hearing since the Supreme Court's immunity ruling, laying out a schedule for the next steps in the Washington, D.C.-based prosecution. Correspondent Haya Panjwani reports.
A lawyer for Donald Trump has clashed with the judge in the federal election interference prosecution of the former president after suggesting the government was rushing forward with an illegitimate indictment at the height of the White House campaign. The hearing in federal court in Washington was the first in the case in nearly a year. Prosecutors and defense lawyers are bitterly at odds over the next steps in the case. In July, the U.S. Supreme Court narrowed the prosecution's scope by ruling that former presidents are entitled to broad immunity from criminal charges. Haya Panjwani, Washington.
A lull in ocean storm activity could soon change. The National Hurricane Center is now tracking 5 separate tropical disturbances in the Atlantic Ocean or the Caribbean, each considered a tropical wave, but all too weak so far to be given names. The Atlantic has not had a named storm since Hurricane Ernesto, which stayed in the ocean and never reached the continental United States. The latest in a long line of character-themed spyware programs is making the rounds, and He Who Must Not Be Named is the latest culprit causing mischief on your computer. Chuck Palm has that in today's Tech Report.
A new malware program named after an evil wizard is coming to steal your data. Another in a long line of cleverly named spyware programs, the malicious Voldemort variant has been detected by security researchers and is suspected of conducting espionage by posing as government agencies, usually tax collection agencies such as the IRS. The cyber attack kicks off when you receive an email that looks like it's from an official government agency. One devious bend to this program is that it may appear from a government agency from the user's country, including the UK, France, Germany, Italy, India, and Japan, and is written in the native language of the tax authority they're impersonating. The email from address may even appear as one of the official governmental addresses sent from that agency. Once the recipient opens the email and downloads the attachment, it has infected the computer and can take over and upload data. Do yourself a favor and never open attachments from people you don't know. Follow me on X at Chuck Palm.
Robert Workman kicks off Friday Sports.
NFL version 105 kicked off last night in Kansas City. The Super Bowl champion Chiefs held off the Baltimore Ravens 27-20. Rookie Xavier Worthy scored twice, a 21-yard run early and a 35-yard reception from Patrick Mahomes late.
You would never even see the excitement on him, but he goes out there and makes plays.
Isaiah Likely caught a TD pass from Lamar Jackson early in the fourth quarter and nearly had another as time ran out, but replay showed his toe landed just out of the end zone. More football tonight as the Eagles and the Packers clash in Sao Paulo, Brazil, the first game ever played in South America. College football week 2 kicks off tonight. Ranked teams playing on Saturday with maybe the game of the day in Ann Arbor. Defending national champion Michigan, home for number 3 Texas. Baseball, the Phillies hook the Marlins 5-2 for their 5th straight win. That pulls them even with the idle Dodgers for the best record in the majors. Rockies edge the Braves 3-1. Atlanta falls into a tie with the red-hot Mets for the last NL wild card. Pirates bounce back from being no-hit by the Cubs on Wednesday to wallop the Nationals. Giants nipped the Diamondbacks. Earlier in the day, San Francisco announced that third baseman Matt Chapman had agreed to a 6-year contract extension worth $151 million. Wins for the Tigers, Rangers, Reds, Twins, and Mariners. Tennis 6 seed Jessica Pegula is on her way to her first Grand Slam final at the U.S. Open. She rallied past unseeded Karolina Mukova in 3 sets last night and will meet 2-seed Arina Sabalenka tomorrow for the title. Men's semifinals today, and American superstar Alex Morgan announced her retirement from soccer Thursday. The 2-time World Cup champion and Olympic gold medalist will play a farewell match for her San Diego club in the NWSL on Saturday, then prepare for the arrival of her second child. That's Friday Sports.
Thank you. When we return on America in the Morning, the feds eye the frequent flyer program after these messages. Welcome back. This is America in the Morning. Well, the federal government wants to know more about the frequent flyer programs and if they're being fair to you, the traveling public. More on the story from Ed Donahue.
Transportation Secretary Pete Buttigieg is telling the CEOs at American, Delta, Southwest, and United to report back to him on policies, fees, and other features of their loyalty program. Common complaints are airlines raise the number of points they need to earn a free flight and limit the number of seats you can buy with points. Buttigieg says unlike a traditional savings account, these rewards are controlled by a company that can unilaterally change their value. He wants to make sure frequent flyers are getting the value promised to them, and the programs should be transparent and fair. Delta says providing a meaningful rewards experience is a top priority. Southwest says its points never expire, and it books more seats with points than other airlines. Ed Donahue, Washington.
Tim Burton and company are back with a character from beyond the grave. Kevin Carr has a weekend sneak peek at Beetlejuice.
With all the reboots in Hollywood, it's no wonder Beetlejuice is rising from the grave.
The juice is loose.
It's been 36 years, and Beetlejuice drops us in on the Dietz family after their patriarch has died. Lydia, her stepmother Delia, and her estranged daughter Astrid return to their old home only to discover their old pal Beetlejuice is reaching out to them from the underworld.
Never seen that chick before in my life, or afterlife.
Even with the return of most of the cast, director Tim Burton is clever enough to not just retread the original story. We do get a standard plot about family strife, and this can feel a bit mundane. But what makes the movie tick is the title character causing chaos and havoc.
When I was a teenager, a trickster demon terrorized our entire family and tried to force me to marry him.
At least the film strikes a good balance with this.
The living, the dead, can they coexist?
Things get off to a clunky start, but the film delivers the off-kilter goth humor we all want without relying solely on nostalgia.
Who's Beetlejuice?
Don't ever say that name.
Beetlejuice.
It's got a lot of energy, though it's not nearly as fresh as the original film. But honestly, could it ever be?
Do that thing from my dream. Really more nightmare material.
Beetlejuice gets 3.5 ghosts out of 5.5. I'm Kevin Carr, and that's the way I see it.
America in the Morning for Friday, September 6th, 2024 is produced by Jeff McKay, senior producer Kevin Delaney. I'm John Trout. This is Westwood One.